Hello friends and potential friends. I've had a request to try to explain the irrigation system around here a little bit better. And to be honest, I'm still learning it myself, but I'll try the best I can. It appears from what I've seen online that irrigation is somewhat different in different parts of Idaho. I don't know of any other states that are doing this type of a system. But basically where I'm at, kind of west of Twin Falls a ways, this should be a high desert surrounded by sagebrush. But the water management people take water out of, I believe they get it from the Snake River. I'm not certain of that, but I know they take water out of somewhere around here and make it available to the property owners to use for irrigation. There is a lot of farming that goes on around here and a lot of irrigation. But for the individual property owners, basically the size of their property determines how many shares they get in the water system. Here we're at my mom's place. She's got just under 7 acres, and so she gets 6 shares in the water system. Each share around here anyway is basically 12 hours worth of water, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So she has 6 shares. That means we can run the water 24 hours a day, starting at 7 a.m. Monday morning until 7 a.m. Thursday morning. 3 full 24-hour days. The water is, let's see, if I remember right, they turn it on around the 1st of June, and then they turn it off sometime in October, or I think it's October. I haven't been here for that, so I'm not certain. But around here, they put it into ditches, and then the ditches run all over the place. There are ditches on both sides of the road here. That one over there feeds the east side of the road, and this one over here feeds the west side. And basically that's it as far as what they make available. Around here anyway, they do not really manage it. It's up to the individual property owners. When my mom bought this place, she got a list of all of the neighbors that are sharing water with her, got their names, address, and phone numbers, and it's then up to us to kind of police the water usage. So everybody uses it on their specified watering days, and if somebody doesn't get their water, I guarantee you will hear about it. But each property owner is responsible for maintaining the water in their property. So this ditch runs across the front of my mom's property, and this is where I get the water that I use to keep the lawn green. Today is Tuesday, so it's my second watering day, and you can see that's where I've got the pump set up, pumping water out into the grass out here. Now some people use pumps, most people actually just use flooding, and I'll give you a little example of that, but I'm not going to keep it running for very long because it can get away from me real fast. But I find that there are a lot of these old oil drum top around here. I've got 4 or 5 of them on this property that I've found so far, and at first I was totally confused what they were used for. But if I want to flood the front yard here, all I do is come down here in the ditch and put that piece of metal over the edge of the outlet pipe. And then I just stand back and watch. And as you can see, that hole is filling up fast. And I'm not going to let this keep going, because it's really more than I can deal with, to be honest. You can see there's a couple of little trenches that have been dug. There's one right there, and there's another one right over here. And both of those lead off into the yard. And when this hole gets full, which is only going to take a couple more minutes, that water is going to start running out into the yard. Meanwhile, it's not going down the rest of the ditch because today is my watering day. The problem I have is when I back it up here to get it to flood the property, it's also backing up the creek a little bit, or up the ditch. And when it backs up there in front of the house, then we start getting a little bit of water into the basement. And so that's the reason that I don't use the flooding technique. But you can see from that next hole over there, it's getting pretty full too. Meanwhile, this one is starting to pump water out into the yard. Water is already coming down this one ditch here, our little trench. It doesn't take much. That trench is only about 2 inches deep, maybe 3 inches wide. And we got water flowing into this one as well. And if I let that go, it'll flood this whole front yard. But that's the flooding technique for spreading the water out. And that's as far as I'm going to let it go. Pull that thing out, and down goes the water. And then it starts flowing again. So if it wasn't for the basement, I could use the flooding, and I could have this whole property filled up with water in no time. I don't want to flood the basement, so I'll stick to my pipes. And let's walk back in the pasture and see what's going on back there, because basically this ditch along the front, we have to maintain it. Our neighbors expect us to maintain it, and if we don't, well, they will kindly help us. Let's put it that way. Because they want their water, just like everybody else does. Let's walk back in the pasture and I'll show you what we got back there. Now this part of the ditch is out by the road, one of the main ditches. There's a pipe that comes through from right over here, and that little ditch runs up across my neighbor's yard under the peach tree. So basically he draws off of that to flood his property. I believe his is done on Sunday, I think. And then this ditch here is heading back along the side of our property, and this one is basically a runoff to make sure that, you know, to handle any of the excess water. So it runs into a pipe right here, and back here under the trees there's a small opening where somebody installed a huge valve at one time. Theoretically, that could be used to shut off the water going back to the pasture. The reality is, my neighbor tells me they put that thing in about 10-15 years ago, and it's never been used, so it's just been sitting there rusting, and it probably will never be used, because I don't think anybody can make that thing turn. I've tried, and I can't do it. Incidentally, there's another valve laying here that probably was here to it was replaced by the big one, and that one doesn't look like it would work either. Pardon the mess, we're getting some trees trimmed up around here, and they're in the middle of the job, so took a break, but they're cleaning a lot of the dead stuff out of these trees. They stopped the chainsaw and the chipper for a little bit, so I figured I'd run out here and make this video and try to avoid the noise. Here we are at the front of the garage, looking down the side of the garage. You've seen this ditch before. This is where I was playing in the mud last week. And there's part of my neighbor's ditch that runs into his pastures. His is empty right now because it's not his day to irrigate. Mine is full because it is my day to irrigate. Oh, and incidentally, I'm going to be getting a couple of loads of wood chips out of this tree trimming deal too. So I'm looking forward to that. Those will be going in the garden. But I have to keep this clear as a runoff, otherwise all of our property around here is liable to get flooded. But as you saw, I did a half-hearted attempt at it, managed to get it flowing pretty good, so right now I'm pretty happy with it. Now back behind the garage, the water is flowing good all the way out into the pasture. Pay no attention to those metal raised beds. You'll be hearing about them shortly. But unlike last week, I don't have very much water coming through this dirt pile. There's one little spot right here. So I would say that the digging that I did was worthwhile. It's keeping it in the ditch, keeping it out of the garden. And I'll put it into the garden when I want it in the garden. But that seemed to work out. A lot of work, but it looks like it was worth it. And now we're back in the pasture beyond where I dug out. This is part of the original ditch here. And it is flowing well, and it is also flooding the pasture. well. So I have to be careful where I walk. Now, I mentioned that around here it's up to the individual property owners to manage their water delivery mechanisms, aka the ditches. In other areas, they have different rules. I got a comment from Gil at Camp Patton Family Compound. He actually lives maybe an hour away from me here. And he mentioned that the water management people in his area go out and inspect the ditches regularly to make sure they have the right levels of water in them. Apparently we don't have that kind of money around here because it's up to the individual property owners to manage their own water here. But this part up here is getting watered pretty good. I've been working on that. Holy moly. This is impressive. This is the first time I've seen this week. Look at that. I challenge you to go back and look at my previous video on water, which may or may not get posted at the same time as this one. And I think I even showed some of this in the playing in the mud video. This was the dead zone. And right now, a week later, half of it is green. Just because I did a little bit of ditch digging. I am impressed. This is one of the troughs that I tried to get flowing, using that little dam right there and an oil drum top. And I hope you can see that all of this green that's in front of me in the camera, last week it was all brown. The green was over here, the brown was over here. And now about half of this dead zone is green. And that's all it takes. 1 week and a little bit of water and everything turns green on you. Whew. From the looks of things, that water is running all the way out to the trash piles back there and probably beyond. So that has really worked out. I must actually be learning something. Still have a little bit of brown over here, and I'll have to address that. It looks like there's a low spot right here that I could probably run some water through to get this area right in here. I can't get over that green. I mean, go back and look at those videos. This was all dead a week ago. That's the magic of water. That's what makes this the Magic Valley. There's another of my dams, and it's sending some water out into the field as well. Not as much as that one up there, but every bit of water I can get out here brings a little bit more green. And down here is the third dam that I put in. And I've got a regular river flowing out here. It's not going to be long till just about this whole area is green. Like maybe next week. Really does work. And this is off the runoff. Once I put those dams in place, I really don't have to do anything more with it, except adjust them here and there if I need to get water to a particular spot. A little bit of a waterfall here. I could make another dam right in here, and there's a trench right there, and that would cover this little area. So it's all about the water. Once you put water on this place, everything turns green. The politics of it varies from place to place, but I find in this area people work together as much as they can because everybody knows how important the water is for everybody. And this back half, this is where the runoff runs to. I don't have to do anything back here but stay out of the way of the plants growing. Well, I wish I could get rid of some of them weeds back there. But anyway, I hope that's a better explanation of how the water system and the irrigation works here in Idaho, or at least in southern Idaho. I don't know whether they do it throughout the state. I know of a couple of other YouTube channels that have mentioned irrigation in the past. Dirt Patch Heaven was one of them, and Gil over at Campatton Family Compound is another. Those two come to mind real quick, and I'm sure there are others, but it's been kind of interesting trying to figure out how the water system works here. And I don't claim to be an expert. There's still a lot I need to learn, but it looks like I'm making some progress. At least I'm learning something, because this stuff wasn't green a week ago. Now it is. So I hope that helped. Have any questions, put them in the comments. I will try my best to answer them. If I can't answer them, I'll either make something up or tell you I can't answer it. But anyway, I hope that helps, and I'll see y'all next time.